Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News for another edition of your daily news roundup. Guys, we've had some interesting developments in the last couple of days. I think that this quarantine is starting to get to some people because I'm getting some strange reports from throughout the United States, and one of the first strange things that I noticed was that CBS News, while reporting on the situation at hand, was caught using footage from an Italian hospital claiming that it described the conditions in New York. That is very odd. My good friend Bob Kudla is also going to be stopping by briefly to talk to us about the nationalization of the Fed, or potential nationalization of the Fed. We've also got the Justice Department investigating Senator Richard Burr for his notorious stock trades that he made on information given about the upcoming situation that we find ourselves in at the moment. Also, we've got some new updates on the Seth R. investigation. Ty Clevenger has gotten the FBI to show that yet again they've been lying about information they might hold. Also, new information coming out of the EU in regard to deaths per week show that for all 24 countries, those rates are lower than the normal weekly average. So that means that people are actually staying alive longer despite what the news is reporting is happening right now. And finally, from Nevada, Governor Sislak's chief medical officer who banned hydroxychloroquine for treating the CV-19 sickness doesn't even have a medical license, and he can't practice. So why is he giving medical advice? We're going to go over all these things and more, my friends, so please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back with Bob Kudla to tell us about this nationalization of the Fed. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. Joining me real quick at the beginning of the program today is my good friend Bob Kudla. We're going to be talking about this volatility in the market and this potential nationalization of the Fed. So, Bob, once again, thank you very much for joining us today. And just for anybody who doesn't know who you are, give us a little preview of who you are and what Trade Genius does.
Yeah, so Trade Genius, what we do is we educate, we inform, and then we actually teach you how to be successful trading in the stock market and also in the cryptocurrency market. So we developed an algorithm that we've been using for years that looks at buying pressure and selling pressure, and then we help you and teach you how to use that system. And then at the same time, we have chat rooms and trade rooms that are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have training courses and training videos and training classes. And then we also provide actually trades that we provide to you via text or through our chat app. And that way, you stay informed in the market. We simplify and we demystify the market. And with the stock market changing now, we're going from a stock market now to a market of stocks. And with the volatility, it just provides some incredible opportunities for people to take advantage of this in these dire times and actually be able to come out ahead. And your financial advisors really can't help you now because they have everything locked in these robo type of environments, and they're not going to be fast enough. So our kind of environment right now, and we're really helping people make money. I shot just a few charts over. Those are just trades from the last 4 or 5 days that we've done. And that's typical of what we've been doing and how we've been performing.
All right, great. And you've got a special for the audience until midnight tomorrow night?
Yeah, we put together for the end of the month for you guys, and we pre-discounted our services, and we also actually even threw in a stimulus package on top of our discount to make it extremely affordable for people to learn how to trade. And if you're a good trader, just to get some really good trade opportunities and to learn and to commiserate with like-minded people. So it's good till midnight Tuesday night.
All right, awesome. Thanks for that. So like we had discussed before, we had this Yahoo News article come out over the weekend. It was on the Q board, and it basically states that through actions of President Trump and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury has quietly been nationalizing major parts of the financial markets. Explain to the audience what that means. I mean, we've talked about ending the Fed before here on the program, and I speculated that maybe perhaps it wouldn't just end, but we would actually nationalize it, make the Fed an actual federal organization. I can tell you that the website for the Fed has changed from a .com to a .gov now. So, I mean, what do you see when you hear all this going on?
Yeah, so I think everything changed when we got to the zero bound at with the United States, and we're the reserve currency. And so, from the standpoint of the technical nature of it, they've now merged operations. If you saw that in the news, where the Fed by law can't buy certain assets, but the Treasury can. So they're just creating this veneer, if you will, of legality to allow the Fed to come in and to purchase assets to stabilize the quote unquote stabilize the economy. And so, yeah, this is, I think, I don't know if this is the way Trump thought he was going to nationalize it, but the end result is still there. And right now it's out of the hands of the bankers, and it's in the hands of the politicians. At some point when it gets real, the politicians are not going to allow an international banking consortium control the destiny of the United States. And basically we rip back control from international bankers to national interests. Now, that doesn't mean it's all good news. It just means that we're going to be calling the shots here in the US. But down the road, it has its own dire implications if things go wrong. So that's what it is technically. The zero bound that we're at now, what I mean by the zero bound, interest rates are essentially zero. We moved from monetary policy now to total fiscal policy. So, if you're borrowing $1 trillion and your cost is 0% and you're only paying interest only, it's essentially costing you nothing. So who cares if you go from 1 trillion to 4 trillion, right? Because your carrying cost is still the same. And in the short term, that's going to help. And also the interest rates that are the bonds that are already have interest rates on them, they're going to be called back in. From around the world. And China, Russia, Great Britain, Italy, Europe, you name it, South Korea, Japan, all those bonds are going to be called back in. The Fed's going to reissue new bonds at 0%, and we're going to knock off 170 to 190 billion in interest fees as well. Now, at some point, it becomes inflationary and potentially hyperinflationary. However, we have so much debt out there that's going to get liquidated and defaulted on, Red, that you're not going to see that in the short term. We're going to be fighting deflation for the next couple of years. You'll see pockets of inflation popping up here and there, but we're going to be fighting deflation. So people that worry about and they hear in the news that we're going to have this Weimar type of thing, that's reserved for countries around the world. That's not going to be the United States. We talked about this before. Everybody says the Great Depression's going to look like 1929 for the U.S. It absolutely will not. Now, for China, yes, they have a big problem on their hands. Germany, big problem on their hands. Japan, big problem on their hands. United States, we're more like Great Britain was during the 1929 crash, where actually their real estate actually went up in the 1930s in some parts of the country. So it's not going to be painless, but it's not going to be devastating if you're a U.S. citizen.
All right. Well, I think that sounds like things are, at least for now, heading in the right direction. When we talk about deflation or the devaluing of the American dollar, is that going to happen as a result of this additional debt that we're taking on and all of this, these bonds that are being purchased and the debt that's being bought up by the Treasury?
No, absolutely. We're fighting the dollar from getting too strong.
Okay.
There's a theory out there called Exeter's inverted pyramid, where when things get scarier and scarier, things start rolling down the pyramid. Ultimately, gold is the only one that's not a counterparty, but above that is the U.S. dollar, and above that is the U.S. Treasury. So we just clipped the U.S. Treasury. Now it's the dollar and gold. You have to remember, everybody that has liquid assets around the world are going to be throwing money at the United States or U.S. dollar denominated assets. So we have a runway here until the debt clears. And then once that debt clears, then your scenario about the dollar rolling over is only going to roll over against gold, because it's not going to roll over against the euro or the yuan or the yen, or the British pound. it's going to have to roll over against something with no counterparty, and that is gold in itself. So no, dollar's going to get stronger. They're going to be fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. That's what killed the oil market. You see oil down 75% in what, a month?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the strength of the dollar.
Okay, so two more questions. With regard to those international banksters that were the owners of the Fed before, does that mean that they've been pushed out of the equation if the Fed has been nationalized by the U.S. Treasury? And then the other question is, do you believe that this move by President Trump and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, do you think this sets the stage for us to return to the gold standard?
Yeah, yes to both questions. Now, basically the Trump administration is now allowed to be the camel to peek under the tent. And so we're going to start seeing some of that stuff that's been going on that likely is criminal, in terms of supporting primarily European banks. That's going to probably end. The Europeans are already now, because of this, they're already trying to talk their way out of what's called the euro dollar. This is why they've been there. They're going to go to something more of a European centered kind of device, probably because of that reason. And then the last question about the gold standard, I think we get there. And I think what they're going to do is they have to clean up a lot of this debt on the books. We hold the most gold in the world. And I think what you're going to see all of a sudden, one day we're going to wake up and gold's going to be repriced and it's going to absorb the debt. And we're going to be back onto some sort of, it won't be a pure gold standard, because gold standard itself is not necessarily a great thing. It could strangle you too. So there'll probably be some sort of gold standard with some modifier that's probably constitutional versus up to the whims of the politicians when we're through this. But we're talking probably a couple years down the line. It doesn't prevent me from acquiring gold and silver and precious metals, because they are going to be the asset to own when this thing ends. So so we'll probably get to a gold standard.
All right. Awesome. Well, Bob, I appreciate you stopping by and helping us sort that out, because I think there's a lot of anxiety about it right now.
Yeah. People just need to look, I'm not going to say this is not painless. I mean, we're in lockdown, right? So we have to get through that and see what dirt comes up from all that. But beyond that, I think there's a path for reemergence for the United States. So, people take heart.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks again for stopping by, Bob. And now on to the news.
Thank you.
All right, so this story right here, this should tell you a lot about the mainstream media and the type of things they are pushing. And it should key you into the reason they are pushing this stuff. They want people to be afraid. And it's not the same thing that President Trump is doing, asking people to stay home. He's giving people hope. He's telling people that everything's going to be okay, because in the end, it actually is going to be okay. However, people like CBS News and Sky News, they want people to be so afraid that they think the world is going to end. And they were caught using footage from an Italian hospital pretending like it was the conditions in New York City. Now, people like James O'Keefe and Project Veritas have gone to these hospitals in New York City, and they've shown proof positive that the situation is not as CBS News is describing it. Now, the footage in question is from Sky News, and it was on March 22nd from Italy. But the footage that's shown here, shown by CBS, claims to be from a hospital in New York City. They sure painted a dire picture this week from their coverage on CV19, and they aired it on Wednesday morning, using it as footage from New York. However, it's clearly from Italy. Now, we also have this footage right here, which shows Governor Cuomo sitting in front of literally piles of supplies, and he's saying that President Trump hasn't sent him anything. He was also caught over the weekend saying that they don't have ventilators, but they actually have a stockpile of 30,000. Let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick. All right, so here is the footage that they showed on Wednesday. There is Governor Cuomo sitting in front of all of those supplies. Now, let's just go back and look at that footage a little closer. There is some additional footage they put in. There he is in front of all those supplies. There's a ventilator. And then here is the footage inside that hospital in New York City. Let's go ahead and take a look at the footage from Italy now. All right, now here we are. And if you take these and put them side by side, you can see that the placement of the ventilators is exactly the same. The movements of the healthcare staff is exactly the same. And if you look at the patients, they are exactly the same as well. Let's actually take a look at a tweet which does put them side by side, and you can clearly see the deception on display. All right, so there's many people who have clued into this. This is Alex at ALX, and it says, during a pandemic, it is essential that the media gives us real and accurate information. It's completely irresponsible for CBS News to use footage from an Italian hospital when talking about the outbreak in New York. This is unacceptable. So CBS News was on March 25th, and Sky News was on March 22nd. Let's take a look at this footage. All right, and there it is. It's the exact same footage, and you can see at the beginning that ventilator was also in the Sky News footage shown below. All right, so that is the same ventilator that I showed you in the Sky News footage. There is the exact same nurse doing the exact same movements. However, CBS News takes just a small clip of it in hopes that you're not going to notice that it is the exact same place in Italy that they are claiming is in New York City. I want to remind everyone, I believe that this is a real deal thing. However, the way it is being reported is absolutely disingenuous. These people want to cause panic. They want to make you fear absolute and utter destruction. It is not a credible journalistic tool. It is the tool of propagandists. All right, now next, a neat little tweet from my buddy Craig Mason. He says, watch the water, and there are some interesting pics below. So someone put this together, and it says, so both ships, Mercy and Comfort, made the 17th letter of the alphabet in the water today. Now here is a image which shows the tracking of that ship, and you can clearly see they made a very unnecessary turn all the way around to come back out with that nice little tail. So I think that is a neat little nod specifically for us. And lending credence to the idea that this crisis is being used to destroy the economy and thereby the re-election hopes of President Trump, Ryan Saavedra announces on Twitter that Virginia Governor Ralph Northam has ordered stay at home for the citizens of Virginia until June 10th. This is absolutely insane. From March until June, you've got to be kidding me. Let's take a look at this. So, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam has announced a stay-at-home order until June 10th. He's saying that this is to take effect immediately, and the order directs all Virginians to stay home except in extremely limited circumstances. He said individuals may leave their residence for allowable travel, including to seek medical attention, work, care for family or household members, obtaining goods and services like groceries, prescriptions, and others as outlined in Executive Order 53, and engage in outdoor activity with strict social distancing requirements. The executive order also directs all Virginia institutions of higher education to stop in-person classes and instruction. Private campgrounds must close for short-term stays, and beaches will be closed statewide except for fishing and exercise. So, this just seems absolutely insane to me, to keep everything closed until June 10th. Ralph Northam is not a good guy. We know exactly the type of person Ralph Northam is. So I can tell you what, with his stay-at-home order until June 10th, something fishy is going on. All right, so I'm sure you guys remember that a couple of lawmakers were caught unloading massive amounts of stock in the wake of getting a classified briefing on what was surely to come for America. Well, the Justice Department is now actively investigating some of those stock trades by Senator Burr after that private CV-19 briefing. Now, Senator Burr is the Senate Intel chairman, and he dumped as much as $1.72 million in hotel stocks before that CV-19 panic hit the U.S., while reassuring the public about CV-19 preparedness. Now, the Justice Department is working with the Securities and Exchange Commission to probe those trades made by Barr as well as other lawmakers after they were briefed in that classified setting. Now, according to CNN, the FBI has been in contact with Burr seeking information about the trades, and the North Carolina senator, however, claimed he got all of his information information from public news reports. He said that he relied solely on public news reports to guide my decisions. Specifically, I closely followed CNBC's daily health and science reporting out of its Asia bureaus at the time. Now, privately, Burr sounded the alarm and compared CV to the 1918 Spanish flu that wiped out nearly 10% of the world's population at the time, including 675,000 Americans. He was quoted as saying, "There's one thing I can tell you about this. It is much more aggressive in its transmission than anything we've seen in recent history." Now, that's according to a secret recording obtained by NPR. He said it's probably more akin to the 1918 pandemic. Publicly, however, Burr downplayed the impact that could potentially take place here in America. Now, Tucker Carlson had some serious words for Richard Burr after that stock sell-off. He said there's no greater moral crime than betraying your country in a time of crisis. Now, two of the other lawmakers that also dumped stocks were Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler. She dumped millions of dollars worth of stocks. Also, Democrat Senator Dianne Feinstein dumped about $1 million worth of stocks, and her husband, Richard Bloom, sold up to $5 million worth of stock after his wife received that private CV-19 briefing. Well, what we have here, folks, is clearly a case of insider trading, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. If you break the law, if you break the confidence of the American people, if you use classified information to enrich yourself in a time of crisis, such as we find ourselves in now, I believe that you deserve the full hand of justice coming down upon you, and I certainly hope these people lose their positions of power and we can get some people into these seats who are going to have the best interests of Americans at heart and not their own investment portfolio. All right, so thank you once again to Attorney Ty Clevenger for keeping this issue on the lips of the American public. He has requested all documents related to Seth R. from the FBI after new testimony from a former DOJ Assistant U.S. Attorney has disclosed that the FBI did, in fact, examine this man's computer. Now, remember in the past he had filed a Freedom of Information Act. He was told that there was no records whatsoever related to this individual. Well, recently, Judicial Watch caught them in a lie because they received emails between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, which were actually titled Seth R. Now, next, the FBI claimed that those emails were redacted to protect the investigation they claimed never happened. Now, I've theorized before that perhaps they don't want to hand this information over because this is an ongoing investigation and they don't want to tip their hand. But regardless, after bringing in the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York to argue against an evidentiary hearing on the matter, the judge denied Ty Clevenger's request for an evidentiary hearing but provided no explanation for the verdict, which is rather strange. Now, he's uncovered that former Assistant U.S. Attorney related to the case admitted that Seth's computer was inspected by the FBI and that there would be records related to this investigation, which has proven that the FBI is lying about what they have in regards to this individual and the investigation that they claim never happened. So this article is actually a timeline of the events that has led up until this moment. We've gone over it on the show in the past, but I just wanted to bring this back up and let people know that this is still going on in the background, due in large part to the efforts of Matt Couch and his team, which include attorney Ty Clevenger, working together to get this case solved and determine what happened to him on that fateful night back in Washington, D.C., back in 2016. All right, so as I promised, the EU has put out reporting on deaths per week for all 24 countries, and it's combined lower than the normal weekly rate that you'd see in every single age group. And this seems to be due in large part to the situation we find ourselves in. It looks like people are staying in rather than going out. They're not engaging in high-risk behavior, which could put them at risk of losing their life. And so we have people who are living longer across every single age bracket. Very interesting numbers here. Now, investigators are asking why they're not observing increased deaths in the reported mortality figures for those countries affected by CV-19. Very, very interesting. Now, next, we're going to go over some footage from a local hospital that was captured by Deanna Lorraine, the woman who was running for Nancy Pelosi's seat in California, but did not make it through the primary. All right, so Deanna says, just went to 2 hospitals in LA to check out these war zones the mainstream media keeps telling us about. They are very quiet and empty. We are not being told the truth. Why? Let's get hashtag film your hospital trending. We are the news now. We can't trust the news. Post pics of your hospital here. Let's go ahead and take a look at Deanna's footage. Nice and quiet. Seems like in an LA hospital, this area would literally be buzzing on any other day. Footage like this is being taken across the United States and across the world. And here is a parking garage, which I bet, if this wasn't happening right now, would be completely and utterly full. People circling around and around looking for a parking space. Where are all the people? Here's another tweet from Mil Spec Ops Monkey. He says, I'm starting a thread on the war zone and overrun hospitals. Please add your pics or videos here of your local hospital if you happen to be near one. First up, Baylor Grapevine supposedly has 15 cases and being overrun, but it's a ghost town. You can see they are empty. There's nothing taking place. Now, here is a tweet from Hail to the Chief at America Votes US, and it is footage from Ireland. The woman is walking through a testing facility in Ireland, and it says it's a show, according to this woman. Let's go ahead and look and hear what she has to say.
And it was a big show put on with all the people supposed to be getting tested, and a big mad show. People look at the testing centres. This is what they're telling you testing is going on in. Where's the testing? They're empty. They're abandoned people. There is no testing going on. Wake up, people. Wake bloody well up. Where's the testing? Where is it? The show that's getting put on for you. Leo and Coveney and Simon will be down out for the photo up soon and have loads of people with masks letting on to be coming in to get tested. Look, there we are. There is no bloody testing. Wake up, people. Right down to the end, look. There is no testing going on in these tents. It's all a show. Wake up.
Well, from this footage right here, it certainly would appear that it is all a show. We're watching a movie, and I am just wondering, for whose benefit is this? It's certainly having the effect of keeping people at home, keeping people from going in contact with others, and making sure that we are safe and secure inside of our homes, our places of residence. And it's not just here in America. And as we know, this cabal is worldwide. This swamp is deep, and it extends across all borders. You guys, I'd like to know your stories. I'd like to see pictures of testing centers in your area and hospitals if you are near them. But this case right here appears to be almost global. The exact same situation. Empty hospitals, empty doctors' offices, empty testing centers. If this is what the mainstream media is saying it is, then where are all the people? So, despite the panic of the mainstream media, people like the governor of Nevada, Sisolak, they are taking steps to stop anyone who actually is afflicted with this sickness from getting the help they need. Now, remember last week he banned hydroxychloroquine. Well, he's got a chief medical officer who advises him on situations such as this, and it's come out that he does not even have a license to practice medicine. Now, according to the governor's order, anyone who violates this order will be charged with at least a misdemeanor crime, and it remains in place until April 16th, despite the fact that the FDA has just given emergency approval to this medicine. And I wonder what's going to happen with doctors in the state if they go with the federal regulations instead of the state decree. Now, when you look at this, he's also preventing seniors from using chloroquine as a prophylactic to even ward off the disease. Now, I had a very interesting conversation with Bob Kudla after we got done filming our segment at the beginning of the show. He said he has a friend who is a doctor, and he's from India, and this stuff is like chewing gum in India. This is the first first thing they give out to people anytime they believe there may be some type of viral sickness. So apparently across the globe, it's very well respected and the efficacy is well known. But this guy, Ihsan Azam, the governor's chief medical officer of Nevada, does not have a degree to practice medicine. He says that he has a master's degree and he worked for several years in environmental public health and epidemiology before being named the chief's state medical officer. Now, it says that he practiced for several years in obstetrics and gynecology in Africa before moving to the United States in the 1990s, but he just never bothered to get his medical license here. So the question is, why is he giving medical advice to people in the state of Nevada, and why is he the chief medical officer for this man's administration? And the answer is that they don't care about truth. They don't care about what's actually good for people. All they care about is the destruction of President Trump and his administration and his agenda to take this country back and give the power to the people. Well, guys, when it comes down to it, I think that President Trump and the patriots, the people in his administration looking out for the best interest of the citizens of this country, have this situation well in hand. I think that any fears that anyone may have are unfounded, and I think that we should look for the U.S. economy to continue to rebound as a result of the implements put in place rather recently. And I do believe that we are nationalizing the Fed and we are going in a completely different direction, and I'm not the only one that thinks so. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me today. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. It's Red Pill. I just want to say thank you once again to everybody that has helped to support the channel. If you'd like to get involved, you can go ahead and check the show notes in the pinned comment and the description. There's always good information in there. I've got a couple of backup channels. I ask that you go ahead and subscribe to them because if anything does happen here, I will start publishing there. And if you want things like merchandise or anything else, there is a bunch of information that you can find right below this video. All right, guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.